You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And for the budget discussion, our guest will be Dr. Ebo Texin, who is Senior Lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Ghana. Of course, Yabo Abiyan is still here with us. Dr. Said Boache is Senior Research Fellow, Institute for Fiscal Studies. And Isaac Adongo is MP and member, Finance Committee of Parliament. We wait for Dr. Ebo Texin. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Dr. Said and... okay. Something came to my mind. I will say that. Please, Isaac, I don't know. All right.
Wale Adams.
No. Not Wale Adams. Something else.
Is somewhere else.
Okay. All right. So let me share with you some of the views that you have to share, and I hope that my good friend Everon Hughes is watching and listening. Everon Hughes had wanted to be the one to host the show today, particularly this part, because he is of the view that I will campaign for no. All right. I hope that you are not disappointed, though. Now, Akwesi Obeng in Joso Besiase says that most countries practicing democracy have politicized their local elections. Those who are advocating for no voting because it will divide us don't know what they are saying, because with the election of MPs on party lines, we have been divided already. Our polling stations within our electoral areas are having MPP and NDC executives, so let's vote yes to politicize our local elections. Benjamin Osei Jamra in Edinburgh says that why are we behaving as the proverbial ostrich and thinking that partisanship is not already happening in our local governance system? A vote for yes is an admission of the reality on the grounds and cannot amount to illegality, and some no campaigners are alluding to. Anyway, I am enjoying the dimensions the debate has taken. Let's all agree to disagree with the view to consolidating our democracy. Eja Adam says, Samson, there is a groundswell of anti-MMDC's elections sentiment sweeping across the rank and file of the party. The people don't fancy the idea of ceding the president's responsibility to the masses in this regard. Many hold the view that we are not there yet. Their reasons may not sound cogent, so to some, but to others, they have valid reasons. The NDC say they are voting no. Many MPP folks say they are voting no. Some known voices in the media are canvassing for no. Yes will likely be an orphan. If yes fails to overcome the onslaught, it would have dire consequences for the party and government. Would it not be, that's too long, would it not be ideal to take a step back, review this whole election of MMDC's idea, and put this on the ice until enough education has gone on for the masses to really appreciate the import of this idea? No, I can read further for just one person. Please, can we proceed to the next person so I can read? Okay, thank you very much for your message. Okay, so Martin Pebu says that I am also in favor of deferring the referendum. So Uncle Kweku Bako is in good company, except that I am voting no, and I'm advocating that everywhere. This one, my simple question is, can anybody tell us how we should elect our MMDCs through popular participation without the involvement of the political parties? This is Andy from the NALAG. It's a NALAG administrator. Okay, NALAG is the local government, National Association of Local Government Authorities. Okay, I got that right. Thank you. Manche Bruce says Samson, illusion is what? Anodyne, an anodyne, bred by the gap between wish and reality. The district assembly elections have always been illegally political. Political parties have always been involved in the selection of candidates. Let's carefully subject this issue to strict rigor of pragmatism and reality, and you would realize that we are deceiving ourselves as a people. Kenanku says, okay, says, you are like a Rosa boy, even within parties. When during primaries you didn't support the eventual winner, he cuts you off, even when you are very competent. I am a typical example. Thus, winner takes all is present within party primaries. Dafiamakwa Roxon says the involvement of multi-party participation in the elections at the local level will also mean that manifestos would have to be prepared by the political parties for the thousands of electoral areas we have in Ghana, and Parliament does intend any absurdity. Kofi Ofosu says that if the NDC says politics at the national level is a needless activity that must not be replicated at the local government level, why is their party still participating in a so-called needless activity? Confused lots. Okay, I guess I can end it here, and then we can continue now to look at the question of the budgets. And in respect of the budgets, we're asking very simple questions. You have had 12.02 billion Ghana cedis put in your pockets. That's what Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister, has been telling us. Do you believe that? Is it something that you can work with? Isaac is here. He has very different views on a number of the sectors. He speaks about declining growth in agriculture, manufacturing sectors, among others, and challenges the finance minister to prove that he is correct in some of his figures. In fact, he has an allegation of actually manufacture of doctoring of some of the figures to do what we have seen. Let's listen to the finance minister briefly.
Lending rates are still high. Improvements in macroeconomic environments alone will not bring interest rates down. There are many other structural fractures in our financial system that are causing high interest rates. In addition to sustaining macro stability, government is actively working to remove these structural bottlenecks to support lower interest rates. Mr. Speaker, it was clear after taking office that we had inherited a financial system tottering on the edge of collapse, which was known to the previous government, but was negligently left unaddressed. The new leadership of the Bank of Ghana therefore moved decisively to restore soundness and stability to the financial system. For banks, savings and loans, and microfinance companies, 4.6 million depositors, Mr. Speaker, were at risk of losing their entire savings. The Bank of Ghana undertook a number of reforms, including increases in minimum capital requirement, revocation of the licenses of insolvent banks, resulting in the consolidation of banks from 34 to 23 by the end of December 2018. Consequently, we now, Mr. Speaker, have a banking sector that is well capitalized, liquid, and well positioned to improve the flow of funds in the economy and to drive private sector-led growth and development. This unexpected fiscal cost of the cleanup has thus far cost the taxpayer over 13 billion Ghana cedis in order to save the deposits of banks, savings and loans, and microfinance companies. It has also led to an unplanned and one-time increase in Ghana's debt stock. 2020 is an election year. I would like to take this opportunity to inform this August House on behalf of the President that all the needed resources required shall be marshaled for the Electoral Commission to ensure that we have credible, free, and fair elections. Ghana remains one of the most stable and peaceful countries in the world, and we intend to maintain it. In spite of the year being an election year, Mr. Speaker, let me repeat that President Akufo-Addo and his government will ensure that the perennial excessive spending during such periods will not happen in 2020. We shall work within the 2020 appropriated resource envelope and adhere to the Fiscal Responsibility Act to maintain fiscal discipline. We will do so not because we are complacent of our chances, no, we will do so because the nation needs it, and we are not prepared to throw away all the sacrifices and gains the people and their government have made in the last 3 years. We shall consolidate our macroeconomic gains and offer businesses and households the predictability and stability that they need to manage their lives. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has developed an integrated institutional framework for the implementation of SDGs from the national to the sub. Government, in line with the decision taken in July mid-year, has formally instructed sector ministry, department, and agencies as follows: to suspend all ongoing negotiations on PPAs and GSAs, LNG gas and purchase agreements, or any other long-term take-or-pay contracts for power or gas until further notice. The government has placed a complete moratorium on the signing of new PPAs, GSAs, and put-call option agreements, and hereby instructs ECG, GMPC, GNGC, and VRA to abstain from entering into any new PPAs, GSAs, LNG SPAs, long-term take-or-pay contracts, and POSA until discussions with Ministry of Energy and Ministry of Finance. That all future PPAs and GSAs, LNG SPAs, and long-term take-or-pay contracts shall be subject to competitive and transparent procurement procedures, and government will henceforth not entertain or accept any unsolicited proposal. On July 30th, 2019, government suspended the Power Distribution Service, PDS concession, following government's detection of fundamental and material breaches of PDS's obligation in the provision of payment securities for the transaction and related matters. After further investigation and extensive consultation with relevant stakeholders, government on October 19, 2019, announced its decision to terminate the PDS concession. Regardless, Ghana is fully committed to private sector participation in ECG and is focused on moving forward with urgency to find a suitable replacement for the PDS arrangements. In line with government policy, the personal income tax band will be adjusted and the necessary parliamentary approval sought to ensure that a 12% minimum wage increase for 2020 is tax exempt. Personal reliefs such as marriage relief, child education relief, and old age relief, which were last adjusted in 2015, will also be reviewed upwards to ensure the relief consistent with government's commitment to support families. So this will be enhanced relief for families, children, and old age. Mr. Speaker, as you can see, we have not imposed any new taxes.
So that's the Finance Minister in Parliament. So I'm sure we can commence on this note. And he started from paragraph 6 of his presentation to say that the government, took over office and its determination was to fix what is broken, and that is what the government is determined to do. So let's check if they have been at the job of fixing what is broken: manufacturing area, agriculture, the finance sector, including all the things he had to say. In paragraph 16, I recall him saying that we have had a miraculous turnover of the economy, fastest growing economy. Ghana is one of the fastest growing economies, 2018, 2019, and this is non-oil. Non-oil GDP has increased from 4.6% in 2016 to 6.5 or is it 3% in 2018, and is projected to 6.0 percent in 2019 and 6.7% in 2020. How can we break down some of these things? 12.2 billion has gone to people's pocket, and that is less than what has been used to fix the financial sector cleanup. That's 13 billion. So let's begin fact-checking with Isaac Adungo.
Did you say 12 point something billion has gone to people's pocket?
Yes, that's what he said. That's and this is what they have done into people's pockets, and that has been done since 2017 through major initiatives. You know, all the major initiatives. You know, at every point
is it 2 billion or 12.2 billion? I just want to be sure.
I thought it said 12.2 billion. Yeah.
12.2 billion?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Free SHS is an initiative, all the initiative, NAPCO, everything else.
Okay.
So we are checking. Have they fixed what is broken? He says that's what they have been doing, and they continue to do so in 2020, including resolving Dumso.
Well, we all know that Dumso is a settled matter. I mean, it was resolved in 2016, so it's not about what they say now. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, I'll suggest that is in dispute.
Well,
Dumso was
cannot
resolved
be
by
in
the
dispute.
NPP.
Baumia himself had said
Really?
that in 2016, Baumia had said that we should not be giving credit for fixing Dumso. He said it in 2016. If it wasn't fixed, he wouldn't have said that. He cannot now be changing. So
they're still struggling to fix
anyway, I don't know how. Is that the way we are going to go? Or,
no. It's your time.
Okay,
but
right.
there are certain things you should be able to agree on.
Okay.
Yeah, you are saying Dumso was not fixed. You fixed Dumso.
Adam Smith go on first.
I mean,
No, but the facts would be
Smith.
contrary to that claim that the NPP government came to fix Dumso.
What are the facts? The facts are that it's not just a question of the lights being on. It's a question of rationalizing the entire energy sector. The fact that we are now dealing with take or pays on which we are spending in excess of 600 million a year. The fact that we have now achieved free flow of funds within the sector. The fact that now it is working and working effectively.
But Dumso was resolved before the NPP took
Not
over.
necessarily. How many ministers had to resign? Donko had to resign.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes. Have they been fixing what is broken?
Well, first, I think I have to start from this 12 point something billion. Yeah. So if that's the case, then you just pick the budget of any government, and you say that all social spending goes to people's pockets. And for that reason, you compare social spending to social spending. And what is social spending? Healthcare is social spending. And so when a government builds a lot of infrastructure for the healthcare delivery of the country, you build a lot of cheap compounds, and you are able to ensure that you scale up the delivery of healthcare. That is social spending. So how much was that went into people's pocket? We built several schools in order to give people access to education and to make sure that children were able to go to school. We introduced what we call progressively free SHS. That is social spending. How much did that cost? You look at the direct, what we call the direct social protection programs that were instituted, such as providing free school uniforms, providing free sandals for kids, making sure that children were not paying for textbooks and all of that. So when you put all of that, that is social spending. So are they now indicating the debate as to which government provided more allocation to social spending than the other?
We know the free SHS situation and how directly parents are benefiting.
Yeah, and that is what I'm saying. So who is paying for free SHS? It is the same parents who are paying for the free SHS. Okay, is government getting money from the moon to pay for free SHS and to fund those social interventions? So you take money from my pocket through taxes to fund programs, and you say you put money back in my pocket. Okay, then if that's the case, how much in taxes have you collected in total in 3 years? Because you took that from the pocket of Ghanaians. And you are talking in excess of 200 billion Ghana cedis taken directly from the pockets of Ghanaians in order to fund government. In fact, to fund 110 ministers, 135 ministers. And in return, you say you've given them 12 billion. So who is taking whose advantage now? That you took monies from the people's pocket of almost 200 billion. You are saying you put 12 billion back in their pocket. If you subtract that, who is suffering now? And so that's why when you go asking the average Ghanaian, they put their hands in their pocket. They rather see a depot. There's nothing there. Because they have funded those projects from their own taxes. It is not as if a government came with money and has gone to provide freebies to people. No. So this concept of putting money into people's pocket is an insult to the average Ghanaian who every day is toiling to fund government machinery, who every day is struggling and paying taxes to fund corruption, who every day is struggling and contributing taxes after they've worked so hard and to get home, and the next day they can't find a job because they have been asked to go home from the collapse of banking sector. And so for any government that is sensitive to the plight of Ghanaians, you never will go on the path of saying that you are putting the same people's money back in
so let's look at the budget.
So that is the first
and
one.
I'm saying, are they fixing what is broke, or they are not?
Let's understand.
We know that he's preaching from taxation to production, and we are aware of 50% reduction on import duties from April. That's been going on.
So now, in 2017, the NPP assumes power. They didn't have a budget. They were spending on vote of account that was passed in 2016 for 3 months. They managed to put a budget together that is approved towards the last day of March 2017. The revenue measures and the programs, particularly the revenue measures that they put there in order to generate the resources, began to be implemented around August, September in 2017. In fact, the whole of 2017, they claimed that they were putting the legal framework together to be able to fund some of their programs, because their programs had to be delivered through the development authorities. So basically 2018 was a wasted year. Okay. And yet, it was in 2017, when they basically did nothing. In fact, they didn't even have a program until after the year when they now had these laws being passed. They didn't even have tax policies that were working until somewhere around September or October, August, September. The economy, that's why he calls it miraculous, because then the economy grows by 8.1%, even when you were sleeping. Okay, so one would expect that now that you are in full gear and your feet is on the ground, what do we expect to see? Leaps and bounds, right? The following year, you are now saying that that 8.1 that you slept and got has now come to around 6.3%. And you say you fixed what? Do you know that in economic management, policies and programs have pass-through effects? So that even in 2017, the programs and actions of 2016 were impacting the economy. Okay, and that is why you saw that massive growth in 2017. So you then realize that even in 2017, when you did nothing, okay, the manufacturing sector grew from 7.9% in 2016 to 9.5% when you were sleeping. Now, by 2018, when you are now in full gear and you are talking about industrialization, one district, one factory, what do we see? We see a 4% growth from 9.5% when you were sleeping and then doing nothing. It now comes to 4.1 or thereabout. Agriculture. In 2017, when you had done nothing, suddenly registers 4.7% growth. And when you are now implementing your program, it comes to 4%, and now we are looking at 2.6%. So quite clearly, the glory of 2017 is beginning to show their true levels in 2018 and 2019, when they now put the 110 ministers together and began to run their programs. And you know why? The facts are simple. 2017, you invested basically nothing. Development authorities were not set up. By 2018, you spent only 35 million Ghana cedis out of an amount, just multiply $270 million by 5. You were looking at about 1.3 billion that would have gone into all the flagship programs under the special development initiatives. We ended the year with you spending 35 million Ghana cedis.
Your claim in the agriculture sector, I don't know where that figure is from the finance minister's figures that he gives. The planting for food and jobs all have taken us very far to a very, enviable position. So he says in paragraph 32, he talks about 2.9 GDP, agric GDP growth, I don't know what the difference is. Agric GDP growth, 2.9% in 2016, 4.8% in 2018, projected to grow 6.4% in 2019.
Now, if your cameraman can zoom onto this, it is his own data. This is the budget. Is that not the budget? Good. If you can zoom in on this table, this graph here that he's plotted, just zoom in. Are you getting it? Good. That is it. So look at the thin line that is running through. You see from 2014, it was somewhere here. Agri grew up to 2017. You see the growth? After 2017, you see where it is going? It has declined all the way to this level. It is not my graph.
But how do you reconcile that with his statement in paragraph 32 of the
but if he's lying in paragraph 32, why should I be the one worried about that? He's not speaking to the data he has published. He's speaking to what he wants to say.
Sorry, but I don't think you should be saying
okay, so
he's lying.
You may not be.
I don't think you should be saying he's lying.
Well, if he's saying something that is not supported by his own facts, why should I be the one worried about that? Because he has given you a graph that shows the growth of his agriculture sector. And you can see that the graph is showing that there is a consistent decline. Why do I have to? Look, the graph is showing you.
What are the figures on the graph?
No, I'm coming. He himself, even in the report, says that. Mr. Speaker, this.
You got the wrong graph.
No, it's not. I'm coming.
Yeah, David Smith.
No. Agriculture. He said, Mr. Speaker, growth in agriculture sector was 2.2% and 3.3% in the first quarter and second quarter, respectively, compared to 4.7% and 4.5%. Okay? Are you saying that 4.5 of the previous year, 4.7 of the previous year, now moving to 2.2 and 3.1 is not a decline? And this graph, the graph here, is a continuation of this paragraph. And the continuation of the paragraph now shows you what he has actually plotted, which is confirming a decline in agriculture output in terms of growth. Not a decline in output, but a decline in the growth. And this is when you claim you have spent a lot of money on agriculture through planting for food and jobs. And you are now quoting data and graphing it to show that there's a declining growth. I am not the one saying it. So if he now goes to another paragraph and he says something else, that is his own cup of tea.
He also tells us about the financial sector growth, but you say it's been a negative growth.
Okay. So the financial sector, Chief, I beg, if you can zoom this one too. That's his own data. It's not mine.
That's page.
This is page 22. There's a graph there. Okay. I think table 5.
Okay.
Just zoom on it.
Yes. Go ahead and make your statement as they do so.
What he is saying here, financial sector, source, Ghana Statistical Service. He says that in 2017, agriculture, financial and insurance grew by negative 17.7. It grew by negative 8.2, and now it is about negative 12.6. It's not my data. That is Ken Oforiata's data. Now he goes in another paragraph, and he says something else. That is his problem. But the facts here don't support the things he's saying in that paragraph. And why should I be the one answering that? Ken should be answering and be reconciling what he's saying there to this data. Okay?
We have groups like the AGI who have said that, who are full of applause for this budget, suggesting that it gives predictability for the 2020 year. The AGI is in the business of manufacturing, right? It's in the business of manufacturing. That's right.
Again, zoom in on the manufacturing sector here. Just zoom in on the manufacturing sector. It's not my data. It is Ken Oforiata's data in his budget. Okay. What the data is saying is that manufacturing, okay, 2016, 7.9%. 2017, when they were sleeping, 9.5%. 2018, 4.1%, and now 4%. And you are saying AGI says when they are declining in growth, they are excited. Well, they can be excited. But they were the very people who were complaining about the benchmark rates, right? So the data here does not suggest that anything is being fixed. I try so hard to look at the numbers for our external sector, to understand what our import levels are looking at, to understand what our export levels are looking at, to understand how our reserves, particularly gross reserves and our net international reserves are performing, to see the rate at which we are getting flows, okay, from the external sector, to support whether or not the city is doing better or worse, and to see where the city is in terms of its trajectory. Let me go. Look at
yeah, but you should be taking a breather on that, and then I'll go around.
Let me just end this one. Let me just land this. So the external sector development, I go to page 25. External sector is about those matters I have raised. Okay, Colonel Foriata now goes to page 25, and he's talking about the external sector. I want to show you what he's talking about.
Take your time.
No, it's important that you see
destroying your
external
data.
sector. Again, just zoom in on external sector. Then you see this document is full of deception, and I want the people of Ghana to see it for what it is. Good. That's the external sector. You see why he's talking about the external sector? He say update on excess capacity challenges in the energy sector. That is the external sector for him. It's not about imports. It's not about exports. It's not about capital flows. It's not about international reserves. It's not about net international reserves. It's about the energy sector. I come through the entire section, and there is no word on the external sector. So this document, is this thing talking about energy sector or the external sector? And in the entire document, you don't find him give us the external sector development. Then he goes in another paragraph to say that the CD depreciation has slowed, and you don't know where he's getting the data. But the data is available from Bank of Ghana. And the data from Bank of Ghana is saying that when the CD depreciated by only 4.8% in 2017 when they were sleeping, by 2018 when they assumed the full reins of power, it went up to 8.8, almost doubling. And as of September this year, the CD has depreciated by 9.2%. In other words, the CD depreciation we saw in the beginning of the year that we were complaining was around 5% and we're complaining. Now it is exacerbated by 9.2. Now show me how a movement from 4.8 to 8.8 to 9.2 is a slowdown of depreciation. But he goes to a paragraph and says something that is not consistent with the data, and he consciously does not provide the data in this document.
Okay, you hold on there for me. I don't know, but if I may just ask this, are you saying that this budget document you are reading, you are unable to find anything that projects accuracy about forward movement of the economic management?
You see, the projection about the forward movement of the economy is even problematic. I'll show you several other things. If you want me to show you.
No, I just wanted a brief statement. I'll go to Dr. Said. Yeah. I'll come to you later.
The challenge
after
you remember that we issued a Eurobond of 11 billion, of 2 billion to support the budget. That is a deficit financing. Okay, if you multiply $2 billion by just 5.5, you get $11 billion. Okay, 11 billion Ghana cedis. All right. The man says that his domestic financing of the budget is about 9.5 billion. Okay, and you borrowed 11 billion from external sources. If you add this to this, what figure are you getting? You're getting over 20 billion. He goes on to say that his foreign financing is about 5.3 billion. It is difficult to reconcile these numbers. Clearly, the deficit has been cooked. Because 11 billion added to the numbers we are seeing for foreign or even the domestic financing cannot be giving you that figure. So how come you have borrowed to finance the budget and it is not appearing in your deficit? So I am saying that the deficit that we are looking at is already at dangerous levels for Colonel Foriata because of the potential of going to jail for breaching the Fiscal Responsibility Act. And it is the reason we are not getting... The language is what it is.
Economic, cooked, jail.
The Fiscal Responsibility Act. The Fiscal Responsibility Act has criminal punishment.
Yes, if you go past 5%.
For the minister?
Yes.
If you go past 5%. And you are saying he has done beyond 5%.
He's already showing 4.7%.
So he's not gone 5%.
And I'm showing you that 4% is because that 11 billion, we don't see it. If you add that 11 billion to the borrow that he has borrowed domestically to finance the budget, or even the external financing of about 5.3, you are heading towards almost 20 billion. So if 15 billion is giving you 4.7%, it means that to hit the 5%, you have only 0.3%. Meanwhile,
okay, hold on
is
there.
shaved off the deficit.
Thank you. You've been speaking for some 15 minutes now. And Dr. Said, I don't know. Sorry to start you on this note. Having listened to, Isaac, from the issues of the manufacturing area, the agricultural subsector, the finance subsector, and he's taking us to the energy sector as well. And the way he's interpreting or looking at the figures, I'm lost, because it doesn't reflect the statement I have read and the notes I have made from the statement.
Politicians always do political things. They always try to interpret numbers to suit their interpretations.
Okay, so show us how he has done that.
I'm not targeting him.
Okay.
That's what they do. And I guess if our friend over here also speaks, perhaps he will start from a different perspective.
That's why you are here.
And I don't want to enter into their argument.
Okay.
You see, I want to assess the budget, the doability of what the government has proposed to do, and the efficiency involved. Can the country move forward with what they have brought? These are things that are necessary. Not we have done that, we did that. That will not take us anywhere.
Okay. So can we move from taxation to production?
Taxation to production. Moving from taxation to production means grow the economy so that we don't tax you more. First of all, you realize that certain taxes were increased along the way. So you realize that slogan is not working so well. But the question is, the budget they brought, how accurate is it? To what extent will it solve Ghana's problem? You see, budget has two sections, revenue and expenditure. This revenue thing, they are projected. How accurate is it? The expenditure, you are trying to spend to try to influence the economy. To what extent will it influence the economy?
Yeah, so you tell us, how accurate is it?
So let's see the revenue, accuracy of the revenue projection.
Yeah.
In 2018, they did total revenue and grants of 15.8% of GDP. 2019, they said, no, they were going to do better than that. So they projected 17.1% of GDP for total revenue and grants. In the mid-year, they said, we can't do that. Let's marginally cut it down. So they brought it down to 17.0% of GDP for 2019. The projected outcome is telling us that they can only collect 15.8%, the same ratio they did in 2018. Seeing this, perhaps you take a lesson from it. And your 2020 projection, you have to match it along what you've been able to do. They have reprojected 16.9, which is similar to the 17.0. You did 15.8 2018. You did 15.8 2019. 2019, you said you were going to do 17.0. You couldn't. What makes you think that you can now do 16.9, which is similar to, 17.0? And you also know that during election years, in many instances, revenue suffers. A case in point is in 2016. Revenue couldn't grow. So first of all, the total revenue and grant projection they have made is on the high side. It has a very strong downwards risk. And as usual, they will find it difficult to meet, and if they are unable to meet it, what do? Expenditure is the target. And that's where the problem is. Which component of expenditure do they target? The essential one that will expand the future potential of the country, public investment. You see, so this is the difficulty the country is in. We cannot increase our revenue, and you want to manage. Of course, first of all, let me tell you that on the aggregate, I appreciate what they do. That if revenue is not coming in, they try to fix expenditure to meet it in order not to overrun the budget, which is good. But look at the expenditure dynamics and make sure that your allocational decisions are as efficient as possible. You don't just go ahead and cut, what do you call it, public spending, because that is easy to cut. The government is supposed to take very serious decisions, take bitter pill that in the short term may not be palatable, but in the future will expand the future potential of the country, growth and development. If they don't do that, and they continue to do business as usual, I tell you, the future of this country doesn't have much prospect.
Your suggestion is that they are doing business as usual?
Of course, they are.
We thought that this government was taking some really very bold steps, including this huge expenditure, you know, basket for free SHS and all.
You see, giving something for free. I thought you were going to ask me a question. You have put 20 billion into people's pocket. Giving something for free is very easy. In an economy that is cash-strapped, do you go about praising yourself for being able to give things for free?
But you are energizing the economy for a future, you know, exponential growth. You are growing your youth. You are giving them education, which is the most important to grow an economy.
Maybe you are trying to
that's the best investment, is that not?
You are trying to reduce it to the free SHS. But if you want
that's the example I'm using.
Okay, let's look at the free SHS. Look at infrastructure. There has been an estimate of a very huge infrastructure deficit. During rainfall, rainy season, where the food comes from, you cannot even get the food to the market. So the very serious problem with infrastructure. Look at education sector. There's already surplus in the system. People with high schools are not getting colleges to attend.
I mean, people with high grades, good grades.
Good grades. People with high school diploma, certificate, cannot find jobs. People with university education, trained education, cannot find jobs. There's surplus in there in that sector. How do you, allocate resources from where there is shortage and spend it in an area where there is surplus? What kind of economic decision is that?
So you have a NAPCO which is taking as much as almost 10,000 of these numbers, helping them to, make a living and also get some skills.
NAPCO is good if the people are actually put to work.
They are working. Are you not aware? Like the revenue area, you must be aware. Revenue area, those who are helping with tax, they are working. Now almost everywhere, they are all the place.
Some are working. Yeah. Some are working. You have to understand that. But I understand. So many people have been posted to certain places that there's no work to do. There's no work to do. In certain offices, about 10 NAPCO people have been placed there, and they are sitting down, but they are being paid. You see, this country, and I don't mean this government alone, we have to take efficiency, the word efficiency. You can spend your money now. You can pursue populist policies. Try to say, I'm putting money in people's pocket, but if you don't consider efficiency, look at your revenue generation. How can you manipulate it efficiently to get more? Look at your expenditure. What is bringing you down? There's so much inflexibility. 3 expenditure items consuming everything.
And the
How
policies,
can you make a room?
And the policies they are working at and talking about consolidating gains for growth, jobs, and security. Which one do you find to be populist?
You see, we were debating.
Because you use the word populist, you can be
populist in the sense that the free
policies.
things you say you are providing, some of them are populist. You are putting money into your pocket. You see, let the economy work.
Programs and policies.
Let the economy work so that the economy itself will generate jobs for people. The government artificially creating jobs is not the solution.
1D, 1F.
1D1
is going on.
Oh,
you have dams that are being sunk around the place. Yes.
You are jamming so many things. 1D1F is a good policy.
You said let the economy work. That's why I pointed you to 1D, 1F and the dams that are being created.
Let me say 1D1 is a good policy. And what I like about it is that it's not the government even putting its money in there. That's what they told us. Yeah. It is the private sector. And if the private sector will come in to help us create jobs, why won't you commend the government? That's a very commendable one. But it is not all these initiatives that have the same character. They have different characteristics. I mean those that are populist, that you are just merely trying to put money in people's pockets without considering efficiency issues.
We have a major infrastructure takeoff, particularly for roads and all, that will improve bringing food from, hinterlands to the market. Sino-Hydro is bringing us, how much?
If it takes place. Last year you were told.
You are doubtful?
You are trying to make me speak as if I'm an opposition person.
You are doubtful even
instead of making us analyze the budget.
You don't have to speak as an opposition person. You are an expert.
You see, let's analyze, go to expenditure, revenue projections and others and see whether it will work or not. But of course, last year, you see, they announced that they were going to construct so many roads, infrastructure year. Let's look at public investment numbers. Last year, they projected 8 billion.
About 8.5.
About 8.5 billion. The projected item says that they can only spend about 6 billion. It was infrastructure year. Did you see it? Of course, perhaps they were counting on the side of hand, though. It is good that it has now been finally approved. And for after 2020, you will see certain projects going on. It's good. But the question is, within this budget, what room does the government have to be able to spend on investment to expand the prospects of this country?
There's not.
We don't see it.
Why is that?
One, revenue is not growing. Two, expenditure is bogged down into 3 expenditure items.
Why is that too? Why is revenue not growing? Why is expenditure bogged down into 3 items?
On revenue side, this country has a very serious difficulty in the sense that revenue, whenever we talk about revenue, we are always looking at taxes. And I tell people, taxes is a mere transfer payment or transfer receipt to the government. You are taking money from individuals and companies and give it to the government. To some extent, it is essential, it is necessary in certain areas, especially when you're looking at public goods provision. But when you overtax the people, you depend too much on taxation, you may be killing the private sector because you are taking resources from companies who are known to spend more effectively than the government.
You are not saying that the companies and people are being overtaxed?
So you shouldn't look at trying to always increase the tax. Look at our natural resources endowment. Since the 1990s, gradually, this country has been losing. I'm not saying this government alone, both of the parties. Since the 1990s, Ashanti Gold Company or corporation at that time belonged to the government. And it was mining gold that the country was selling. Now, it doesn't belong to Ghana anymore. It is a South African company. How much does Ghana rake in from the mining sector? Very minimal. We found oil in 2007. Largely, what we get out of it goes to the hands of the multinational companies. Only about 25% comes to us. And if you have this natural resource endowment, and the biggest portion of revenue from it goes outside, how will you be able to get revenue to develop your country? We have to sit down. These politicians have to sit down and think critically as to how we can capture back our interest in the mining and the oil sector. That is the revenue component.
Okay, you take a breather there.
Yeah.
Dr. Said there. So, yeah. So, look, and here is Dr. Said, not your politician and your opponents. Also, looking at things from a perspective that doesn't give too much hope. So what do you say about this budget? But to start with, the question he mentioned about, the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Yeah. The Fiscal Responsibility Act, is there criminal, sanctions in there? Maybe he should help me too. I only thought that if there was any problem and the minister exceeded, Parliament will activate Article 82(1) to pass a vote of censure on him. Okay.
But so that all our viewers are sure, because like Dr. Said said, if it's between us, he doesn't believe us.
Okay.
Just Google it. And read the relevant portion.
Okay.
Because let me clarify. Now listen, I just want to clarify.
Yeah, we need to settle that.
Assuming that the minister is out of office, what will censure do to him? So read the sections.
Which section? Which section of the fiscal responsibility?
Go to the content. Go to the content.
You now proceed. I'll look for it.
Go to the content timeline.
I'll look for it. Yeah, go ahead.
You see, every budget is projections. And the projections are based on a historical analysis. In setting it up, the historical analysis depends on data. Now, a very serious argument has been made here that the data is cooked. And the word cooked was used. The beautiful thing about what we do with the data and what we read in Parliament is that it's all on record. It's in a book, which he's showing us. And what was read in Parliament is on the Hansard. It is not just for the benefit of us sitting in this studio. There are international people. Decisions are taken on what has been read and said and what is being printed. And therefore, there is very little room for the kind of language that is being used here, cooked and criminal and all that. There are third-party assessors who are very, very serious about these matters because major decisions are taken on those matters. So for the record, I want to place it here, that data is not within the purview of the finance minister. Finance minister cannot come and tell us Anansi stories and walk away. It's a matter of record for third-party people who engage, including academics, business people who have to take decisions, as well as the international community who are our partners. So data matters are serious. Indeed, I want to avoid politicization because he's afraid of politicians. But the only government on record in this country to have paid a penalty for data manipulation is the NDC. The NDC cost us $38 million in data manipulation.
Which one is that?
You have forgotten. You have forgotten.
Which
the
one is that?
Kufuor government had to pay $38 million because the NDC manipulated figures and the IMF found them out. The IMF found them out. It is on record. But let's move beyond that. So what I'm saying there is that data manipulation, words like cooked, criminal, are not ordinary funny things you say to buttress a political argument. They are factual things that third parties depend on. Having said that, what budget do we have here? A budget that tells its own story. It is consolidating gains made. And those gains are for growth, they are for jobs, and they are for prosperity for all. That is exactly what this budget delivers and promises to deliver going forward. And let's look at some of the indices for these three things the budget is saying. First of all, the IMF test. It feeds into the data situation. This is an economy that we are being told went to sleep in 2017 and grew.
Government slept, not the economy.
Who was asleep?
Government slept.
Exactly. Economies don't stop at once because a regime left.
Yeah, exactly.
The indices, the workings of the economy are ongoing. It is the management of it which changes. And consistently, the MPP have been better managers of this economy.
The point he was making was that within the period you had come into office, for 2017 more particularly, you didn't do anything to add to the growth that was experienced. You simply inherited it.
Managing the resources, the economy we inherited in order to realign it and get back on track.
So his suggestion is that, for example, when
IMF.
he takes a Greg, he's saying, and the manufacturing sector, he's saying that for the period that you had not, as it were, taken control, there was good growth. But suddenly, when you were beginning to take over, then there's negative growth for the banking sector, declining, negative for banking sector, declining growth for the agric, and then
growth for
manufacturing.
We couldn't have taken charge. The IMF was there. We inherited an economy which had the IMF feeding us intravenously. By 2016, the IMF was insisting that in spite of their therapy, the economy was going down. The mid-year review of 2017 is very, very clear. Again, you can't dispute the IMF. The IMF is the NDC's favorite big brother. The IMF ran this economy for the NDC in Ghana for several years, particularly the intervening years where we drifted from the revolution into liberal democracy. The IMF ran this economy for them and the World Bank. They believe in them. In 2014, when the banking sector had collapsed, they were told by the World Bank and the IMF, work on it. They ran to them and said, give us the solutions. From that time up to 2016, the IMF told the whole world that the economy was not improving. So, by 2017, the IMF story had changed. What was the difference? The difference was that there was a new government in charge. The difference was that management of the economy had changed. And what I'm trying to say is that you don't need to have invested your own money that you found before the economy changes. What you came to meet is a running economy, except that it was running negatively. So you can turn it around. You can turn it around. And we did that immediately to the extent that the IMF endorsed what we were doing, and by April 2019, they had enough confidence in our management to leave us. So that's the first step. 2, this budget is made in the context of a post-IMF situation. So it has a test for us. We are not about to fail the test in election year and go back to the IMF post-election. That means
That's good news.
That means, yes, it's a budget.
If you can keep that.
Oh, of course we will. Of course we will.
That's good.
It is a budget that is tightly constrained in its expectations and in its projections. That is why it begins by consolidating the gains. You consolidate because you don't want to mismanage where you are and fail the tests. So we are moving beyond the election boom and bust. We are not going to spend money by heart, like some spent 600 million in 2012 and managed to collapse the economy by 2014. We had to go to the IMF. We are not going to do that. We are going to spend within our limitations, which means within the revenue envelope that we are able to generate, as well as with our foreign partners. We are going to do that. Now, even more interesting is that we have been bold enough to pass a Fiscal Responsibility Act. And we are saying that in this election year, that is a major test of our financial management capacity. As a government, we have put in law that we are not going to spend beyond 5% of the deficit. And the finance minister has referred to that in the budget, and we intend to keep to that. All data, all figures.
He's suggesting that there's a backdoor attempt to reduce the expenditure so that you don't hit the
Adam Smith.
The punishable
Adam
level.
Smith.
They have already crossed
You see,
5%.
Adam Smith makes very wild allegations.
Baumia is not here.
You are the one who said
Baumia is the only Adam Smith in Ghana.
I am now replacing it to Adam Smith.
Well, I know you miss him here.
I know who Adam Smith. You see, when he says those things and throws those words about, that's why I began by talking about data certainty. He has a responsibility to demonstrate those figures and demonstrate them accurately. The last time they threatened that,
20 more.
let me just go back. Before the budget reading, they had a pre-budget press conference where they made all sorts of allegations. None of those things happened in the budget.
What did we say?
Then they threatened that post-budget, they were going to come out with the real state of the economy. What has happened? We are looking at mini press conferences on roads and health, ambulance distribution and all that. They haven't been able to come out with anything negative.
Yes, but the ambulance distribution.
Let me not get diverted.
That sounds some way.
Let me not get diverted. Let me not get diverted. Let me focus
we
on.
have 305 ambulances, according to the minister, that we have been able to bring in, and we have how many of them sitting at the Parliament House?
We'll put trackers in them and distribute them.
And you are waiting when to distribute.
We'll
when
put trackers in them.
They can be put to use now.
Let's focus on
the argument is that
larger.
you are seeking for political gain, capital, to distribute them during the elections.
I'm a lawyer economist, so I was flying on the,
On the law side.
I was flying on the economy. I'm just about taking cruises. And now you're taking me back to ambulances.
You brought ambulances.
Let me focus on cruising speed, then I can get back to ambulances. I beg you.
Okay.
So, the Fiscal Responsibility Act is real, and we are committed to it. Very critically, the finance minister says we are going to pay for the election. So, is it within the constraints of our revenue? Is it based on imaginative arrangements with our partners? Is it something that is going to deal with the deficit and move it beyond 5%? That's a very important argument for me, because election expenditure is massive. So, you should be interrogating how we pay for the election and stay balanced, because we are running a balanced budget. For me, that's very significant.
Balanced budget.
In spite of all this, in spite of all that,
mention balanced budget?
Please, I said
I want to be sure.
Maintain our balance. I didn't talk about
Okay,
balanced
okay,
budget.
okay.
We are not in the American Senate. I'm talking about how we maintain our balance.
I thought you said
Now,
balance.
in spite of all this, something, we are meeting our ongoing obligations to our flagships. That's where we have put 12.2 billion in our pockets. We are meeting all our obligations to our flagships. We are meeting the obligation to educate people. And Dr. Said, without education, we lose on mines and mineral resources.
There's already education going on.
It's not sufficient. It's not sufficient. So we are investing in education. We are investing in debt management. Because we are investing in debt management, we've managed to stabilize our debt profile and brought it below the danger levels. We are investing in stabilizing the financial sector. Without a working financial sector, you cannot move this economy forward. So we have invested serious money in the financial sector. We are investing in 1D, 1F, and it's paying off already. 1D, 1F has produced over 10,000 direct jobs and a little over 43,000 indirect jobs. Already. Over 10,000 direct jobs. And our biggest problem is jobs. Everybody knows that. We are investing further in jobs. We have created NAPCO. We have paid. We have absorbed nurses who are at home. We are investing in farmers, subsidies in planting for food and jobs, what do you call it? Teacher training and nursing training allowances. We are investing in all these things, which we promise to do, not because they are populist, but because they go to elevate the lifestyle of the population. They go to meet a need.
Yeah.
There's a need for employment in this
there's something
country.
that's come up briefly, and you also mentioned the ambulance thing. So if you can speak briefly about that, because people are concerned about it, that you have ambulances sitting there,
Yes.
and the claim is that there's some tracker that has to be fixed,
Yeah.
and it cannot be fixed until whenever. And the ambulances have been sitting there for how long now? And it does appear strategically, you're waiting, then we take over, we get into elections, and then you present them in a way that will gain votes. What do you say about that? But on the issue of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, Isaac Adongo, I think you are wrong. The provision is that, I think this is in section 4? It says that Parliament may, in accordance with Article 82 of the Constitution, pass a vote of censure on the minister where the minister breaches Section 2 by more than 1 percentage point. 1 percentage point. So it is a censure and not a criminal punishment. All right, thank you very much. Yes, so...
something. The Minister for Special Development Initiatives has spoken. The Minister of Health has spoken.
They say what?
The fundament, they talked about trackers, bringing all the equipment in and trackers. My information, as I sit here this morning, was that there were several still to be cleared, and there were a few more on the high seas, and that would be important to assemble them together and put in the trackers. But assuming, without admitting, that they are not going to be distributed before the election, this is an important social intervention that has been taken responsibly. We had a situation where the same attempt ended up in tin cans with engines being brought into the country and paid for. Tin cans with engines being brought into the country and paid for. We were not able to distribute them. We were not even able to conclude the entire importation. These are solid machines that will end up with the people irrespective of the time and end up properly with the appropriate technology to track their use. So for the people of Ghana, the important thing is that have we met a social need? And that social need is that, yes, we have brought in an ambulance.
Yes, we are all happy about that.
Exactly.
That's why we want them distributed, because people are dying, lives are being lost because of absence of ambulances.
Mea culpa, we are going to distribute them. Mea culpa, we are going to distribute them. Now, let's go back to the economy. Fundamentals. Is it true that inflation is at 7.6%, the lowest in 27 years? Is it true? Is it true that the treasury bill rate has fallen to 14.7%, and that because of that, the likelihood of dragging down lending rates is high? As we speak, personal lending rates have dropped from 33% to hover between 20 to 24%. Is it true? Is it true that economic growth is strongly positioned and that we are hovering between 6 to 6.7%. And that if our sectoral growth rates were negative, we wouldn't be recording 7% overall growth. Is it true? Is it true that at this point in time, our fiscal deficit is only 4.5%? So, if these things are true, that means our macro framework is very sound.
Okay, I take a quick break, and when I return, we'll also find out, is it true or not that the fishing sector, apart from the manufacturing and agriculture sectors that we have spoken about, growth in the fishing sector or fisheries sector also recorded a growth rate of negative 6% for the first 4 quarters of 2019, worsening livelihoods in fishing communities. Growth in the construction sector also saw contraction, averaging negative 8.5% in the first 2 quarters, 2019. And Ghana has dropped 4 points on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index due to high tax payment and standard of living of Ghanaians said to be deteriorating as a result of 50% increment in the price of fuel, ever depreciating CD, 50% increment in CST, and other taxes. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, and this is the second segment where we are looking at the budget. And earlier, some issues had come up about some slip or mistake that had been made. And I was saying earlier to my friends quietly that, but for the partisanship that is leading some of us to know, they would have quietly whispered to the minister that there's some small error or omission, and he would have come to fix it. But they made a whole political game out of it. And there were people who were also denying, and then the next day, the minister was in parliament trying to correct the thing that people were denying had not happened. Okay, so I'll get your very brief views in conclusion, but when you speak about, for example, the banking sector, and you talk about, you know, the growth in that area, the question that some would like to know is, what exactly do you mean when you are talking about that growth? Are you talking about growth as in assets, as in profits, credits, or what exactly are you talking about? Because after the cleanup, there is clear evidence of some very good thing that we should be proud of. In 2017, the value added to the financial sector was around negative 17%. It drastically reduced to a small negative in 2018. In 2019, that's post the cleanup, if you look at the financial statements and profits declared by the financial institution, so far, it looks like there's no doubt that the value added will be significantly positive. So what exactly are you looking at when you say the growth in the area has been negative?
I'm really constrained by time, you know, yes. It's a very huge subject. And, but I just wanted to say that free SHS so far, we spent just about 2.4 billion Ghana cedis on free SHS. We are projecting to spend just about 1.8 billion out of 85 billion Ghana cedis. So investment in free SHS is overflocked, and it should not be something that anybody should be talking about.
Okay.
1D1F, 2017, there was no spending. 2018, and I have a report from the Minister of Trade and Industry when we met them last week. They budgeted for 400 million for 1D1F. Only 67 million was released. I cannot see how would be a game changer in the industrial sector. Flagship project, last year they spent just 35 million Ghana cedis on all the flagship projects under special initiative. So all these things are just being overflocked, but there's nothing really in it, and you can't find any money there. But
really?
Yes. These are facts.
So 2020 doesn't look good for you?
Chief, that's why I'm coming here. You see, you just spoke about the banking sector, total assets. To measure the growth of a banking sector that has gone through reform, you measure what has happened after the reform. Is that not what you do? Good. Total banking assets increased from 105 billion to 115 billion. Now, that 115 billion include existing assets of the 13 billion they issued in bonds to cover the previous deposits. So it is not new growth. You take it out. When you take it out, the banking sector assets would have grown by just about 7% in 9 months. In 9 months, banking sector assets. But you will notice quite instructively that after April, between April, May, June, July, banking sector assets remain flat. It doesn't grow. Why? Deposits. Again, you will find that consistently for 3 months, the deposit doesn't grow. It remains in the same place. In 2019, when you have finished the cleanup, that's what I'm saying.
You say why, but you didn't provide the answer.
Because there's no confidence in the sector. And you see, the reason why it is even dangerous is because now, the financial sector now is not deepened. It's now been reduced to just the banking sector. Because the savings and loan sector, nobody wants to put money there. Microfinance, nobody wants to put money there. Fund management company, nobody wants to put money there. So why do you expect the monies to go? Okay. The money should be going to the banking sector. And therefore, you should be seeing a growth in deposits. So even when these people are collapsing, your deposit, there are quite a number of them. That's why I say I'm very constrained.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but we have run out of time. Yeah. And so Dr. Said, looking into 2020 and the budget as presented, are we not to be excited looking at the figures that are projected, growth that are supposed to hit between 6.7 thereabout and all, non-oil GDP and all?
You see, if you're looking at the economy in the short term, especially since we are getting assurances that they are not going to overrun the budget, it's not a big deal.
Do we have the history where in an election year we have not overrun the budget?
Oh, in 2004.
Okay, that's all?
That's all.
Okay.
But when my friend from the government says it is as if everything is fine, that is what I want us to understand. The country is in a situation that something fundamental needs to be done. You see, the fiscal position is what of self-generating fiscal situation now. That's what the country. Okay. It is self-generating. The deficit is self-generating. Right. Let's look at 2019 budget.
Yeah.
You see,
we have run out, so we want your global picture of.
In 2019, for instance, you see, the country's spent 22.4 billion on compensation alone. Debt service 30.4 billion. EMR fund 13 billion. Added together 66 billion. The country got raked in 54 billion. This stress expenditure item 66 billion. So it is self-generating deficit situation. Anything the government promises, the country has to borrow. And this debt service expenditure is 56% of total revenue and grants. And you keep on borrowing.
Your conclusion is that?
The conclusion is that something drastic needs to be done. You have to take long-term decisions.
The economy is in trouble.
Of course, if revenue doesn't expand so much and nothing is done to the expenditure, the economy is in trouble in the long term.
But do you have confidence about the management so far?
They are not tackling it. In fact, 2017 they did well.
All right. So yeah, and as we have come to know, even the economists have a way of picking the figures and looking at them from different perspectives. He looks at the banking sector, and I was asking the questions. He looks at the assets, for example. He won't look at the profits. Okay, so he's able to make a calculation that gives you a negative.
You didn't have time. Yeah. So I would have come to the profit.
Something drastic is being done about revenue generation.
Okay.
GRA reformation, otherwise. So something drastic is being done. Property taxes and others, all those things are being looked at because the government is conscious about the challenges in the revenue sector. Something drastic is being done. 2, this is the year of roads, and roads have a way of stimulating economies. Roads stimulate economies. Once we are focused on delivering the critical roads, we will stimulate the economy within the fiscal deficit that we've set ourselves, and our flagship programs will keep going. We are managing the economy better than the NDC.
Okay. Thank you very much, and that is all time will allow us. Thank you all very much. Wabinga Samoa is MP and Director of Communications of the NPP. Dr. Said Boakye is Senior Research Fellow, Institute for Fiscal Studies, and Isaac Adomo is MP and Member, Finance Committee of Parliament. And I checked some people commenting on my pronunciation of your name. That's Gruni. That's what I speak. if I don't pronounce it correctly, my people will murder me. It's Adongo. It's Adongo. It's not Adongo.
Are you going to be challenging him for the
thanks to Dr. Michael Kwesa-White, Justice Sremsai, and Abdul Malik Kwekubako for the first segment as well. I'm Samson Ladi Ayanini. Thank you very much. See you again next week, God willing, with another interesting edition. My outfit, as always, is by Latida.